face is the lack of existing infrastructure that reaches every corner of the continent. Surely there are power lines and power sources that reach populations of people, but not all of the people. So that becomes a challenge, because our ultimate goal is just not to reach the mass populations of people in specific areas, but to generate electricity that will reach the poorest, that will reach the most rural areas as well. So that does become a challenge, but as General Honore has stated, it's not something that it will evolve. And as countries begin to expand their infrastructures and expand their power generation, their power line systems to reach more rural areas, of course, we are uniquely prepared to provide the electricity they need to bring to those areas. So yes, there are challenges, as there are anywhere else, but I think that Zoetic Global is uniquely positioned to be able to meet the needs and deal with the challenges accordingly, or as they evolve to something that we can see as a viable solution.
And I was going to add the challenges of sort of on the ground, in some sense a broader question, doing business in Africa. Our experience has been very positive. And I think that, what are the keys? Everyone asks us, how are you moving so quickly? When you hear and these are very, I think, pejorative kind of statements a lot of people in the world make about sub-Saharan Africa, right? Tremendous amount of misinformation. So if you commit, and commit does not mean only the checkbook. If you're committing to these countries as in partnership, and that's what we do, we go into the country and you have to spend a tremendous amount of time there. The idea that you would fly in, fly out is not the way that you would do it. It's not culturally the appropriate way, but there's a long history of obviously bad experiences for these countries in Africa with folks from all corners of the world. So for us, before we went in, we said, okay, these are the countries that we've had prelim talks with that have hydro dams that this program is a good fit for. And then, of course, we evaluated some of the other things. Do they have a renewable energy program that we could fall under? The standard things that every bank and funder would look for in terms of tariffs and those kind of things, and regulatory structure, right? And that is a challenge as well. A lot of that governance and regulatory is not necessarily in place, especially for renewables, because renewables are coming onto the marketplace. But we viewed that all as those are just steps. They're just steps. We can work through it. But I think going back to the start of my statement, the first thing is if you're really going to commit to these, you better commit. You better be on the ground. And they need to see you. They need to see you at all the different levels. So when you're presenting, it is on consistent and steady path. So I can tell you the amount of time that our team has spent in Ghana in the past year is extreme. And we would do the exact same thing for all the other countries that we're going to walk through. And to me, everything else is secondary to that. The regulatory and governance issues and the legislative process, approval process, all of it can be managed if you are there. So I think that's a testament to the way Mr. Ringo modeled what Zoetic was going to do in sub-Saharan Africa.
Okay, as Mr. Ringo said, you guys are at the Powering African Summit to create awareness. So any special message to our viewers on what you guys want them to really hear in terms of what you guys are doing?
If I may add a point on confidence that the people ought to know, we have a 20-year contract that's based on performance. So it's not like selling them a piece of equipment and we fly away in the big jet. We get paid for 20 years based on us providing the power. So I think it's a business performance agenda that we contracted with that assures them that we will perform the way we have said we're going to perform. This is not just a drop it off, fly away. We get paid by producing, and I think that's key for people to understand.
And ultimately, our model is not to take away from the country, but to bring into the country. Not just economic development, but we want to to bring hope where there has been hopelessness. We want to make those things visible that have been invisible. We want to create opportunities where there was none. And I think ultimately that is why we spend so much time in the countries, not just to anchor ourselves, but also to better learn the culture, better have a clearer understanding of the needs and the demands and of the challenges that are internal within the country. And so we have successfully been able to do this by building relationships, whether it be government or non-government, whether it be in the private or the public sector. We've been successful in doing that, and we are committed to following that same recipe with a high degree of energy, but with a high degree of patience to move forward to see that our ultimate goal is accomplished.
Do you have anything to add on that?
No, just echoing again, talking about the almost like a rallying cry. Right? You've heard it in just the first hour of being at the summit. It's a inclusive process. It has to be, from technology to funding to political will to be honest, entities like yourself, that the media is putting the proper spotlight on this type of need and this type of solution, because the buy-in has to be broad. Right? It has to be broad for legislation. You heard them talking about some of the Electrify Africa Act that's moving through the U.S. Congress. And those are the kind of things, you go country by country, region by region. If their commitment is there, you have to see things like that. The funding is there, but the spotlight needs to increase. And one thing I wanted to add, maybe a final statement from myself, is yes, we're talking about the starting point for this power. What will it do? Lights to read, right? Refrigerating medicines, right? So you have to walk through. If you really want to see what the impact is on the ground, General Henry mentioned about entrepreneurship. These are the things that spark entrepreneurship, because ultimately it's going to be these countries standing on their own. All we need is to help light the spark, right? And this global community commitment that's required. But once you start moving forward, already there are significant areas in Africa with strong entrepreneurship, software development, outsourcing, right? What they are anxious to do is to move up the value chain, getting into things in maybe life sciences space or more advanced manufacturing. But all those are contingent on power. You can't do those things. You cannot have intermittent power, or the domestic-owned company has to run to the generators and turn on the emergency generators at $1 kilowatt hour. So to me, it's all interconnected: health, education, the entrepreneurship. Everything starts at the base. We talk about the sort of pyramid here. The base of it is the energy, purifying water. Everything is connected. So we said, let's go tackle the base and start there. A lot of the people in our network, to try and rally them. Projects that they're doing in renewables, other parts of the world, consider sub-Saharan Africa. Make a commitment. And I think you're seeing more and more of that. In the Power Africa initiative by President Obama, I think was so important, because finally somebody brought this into a single talking point. Right? It coalesced everything, and that was missing. Everything else was disjointed and country by country, nonprofit by nonprofit, funder by funder. But by going into things like Power Africa, that was what I think was needed to rally people around it. It certainly caught our attention and made us think, you know what, let's go to Africa before we go anywhere else. So thank you for the time.
I want to personally thank you guys for what you guys are doing in Africa, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's
Thank
make
you.
sure he has our cards as well.
Bako?
Yes.
Bako? Pleasure.
There you go, Lanta.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So I'll follow up with the other lady, and when everything is ready, you'll see.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take care.